Hello, I'm John McAllister with the John McAllister Sports Report. And in my program, I talk to a lot of different coaches, a lot of different players, and we branch out into sections rather than just the John McAllister Sports Report. It's my first ever doing interview with a basketball coach. Tony Staib is considered one of the best coaches in Central Ohio, if not all of Ohio. He originally grew up in Tiffin, went to Bowling Green, to college, went to Findlay worked under Jerry Snodgrass, and took the Kenton job after about 6 years, and then 3 years there, and he landed the job. He is at Gahanna Lincoln High School in Columbus, and is doing an excellent job. Total, he told me, probably 400 victories, 18 seasons, or it'll be more than that now. But he's been in it for 35 years, and he's had success, and he's had some speed bumps, but more success. Coached some college-bound players and coached many excellent athletes. We talk about different things, and I really like to get his perspective on different things. So it's a great interview. First basketball coach, and being a football guy, those basketball coaches are okay. Thank you. Sit back and enjoy my podcast with Tony Staib from Gahanna Lincoln High School. Okay. Like I said earlier in my intro, my guest is Tony Staib from Gahanna Lincoln High School. I'm really excited because I've never done a basketball coach before I interviewed. I want to do more, but I talked to Jerry Snodgrass, and he gave me coach's name, and if Coach Snodgrass can do it, I'm good. So I welcome Tony. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just got home for after practice on a Thursday. We had a scrimmage last night, so everything's good.
Good. And healthy players? Everybody good?
Yeah, everybody's good. We got sickness going around, I think, like everybody right now. But knock on wood, everybody's healthy, and we're a couple weeks away from the start of the season.
It's usually right after Thanksgiving, isn't it? Your games?
Yeah, it's normally we start right after Thanksgiving. I pushed it back a week this year, because I knew our football team was going to be really good.
Right.
They had a couple tough injuries, and they got knocked out a little early.
Yeah.
So we'll start the week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's really good. And we talked earlier. It's nice that I've always thought in a smaller school, because you are Division I, correct? I mean, all the school.
Yeah, we're one of the biggest. I'm not sure exactly, but I would say we're one of the top 2 or 3 most, the biggest school in Columbus.
That's what I thought. But anyway, you still are able to have some football players play basketball. And I think that's really good athletes and stuff like that.
Yep, for sure. We're counting on some of our football guys this year, and we got some baseball guys as well. So, it's nice to have those athletes for sure.
They're athletes, Coach. They're athletes, right?
Yes.
And I think, I've always thought, and we'll get into this, I always thought I was never a basketball coach, just football, baseball, and track. But I always thought you needed about 2 gym rats. That's all they did. And you didn't bother them. They just play basketball all year round. Then you get maybe 3 football players to balance that out, like big guys and stuff like that. And I'm talking about smaller schools, probably a Division III school or 2 school like that. But it's good.
Now we'll take that recipe for Gahanna Lincoln as well. So it's nice to have those athletes sort of blend in with your gym rats. You're right.
Right. You gotta have gym rats. So, okay, let's. Right now, you're at Gahanna Lincoln High School. You've been there for how many years?
Oh, I think it's year 23. I'm pretty sure on that.
I
It's sort of,
think it's near because I checked it. The last I saw was 18 years and over 300 victories. So
so
that's 5 years ago, I think.
that's 5 years ago. So I guess your math is pretty good. Upper Sandusky math is okay, right?
No, I'm an English teacher, man.
There you go.
But how many, and you know, obviously you've done a great job down in the Columbus area. And well, let's go back. So you're from Tiffin. You went to school at Bowling Green University, and then you did your student teaching at Findlay, right?
Yes, that's sort of where it all started. I did my student teaching at Findlay High School in 1990. And, I first sort of touched base with Jerry Snodgrass there. Then after I graduated, I went back to Tiffin to help Bob Nocton coach. And did some substitute teaching. I graduated late in August at Bowling Green, so I sort of missed the job search.
Yeah.
And I taught there, subbed in Tiffin, coached basketball, and that's when Roger Renz sadly passed away at Findlay.
Yeah.
And Jerry got the head job at Findlay and circled back with me, and I interviewed with Jerry. Then the next year, I had a teaching job and a coaching job with Jerry Snodgrass at Findlay.
Yeah, that kind of set the stage then. Then you went to Kenton for 3 years?
Yeah, I was 9 years an assistant at Findlay. And
Really?
and just had great mentors there. Jerry was an outstanding mentor, and Ray Elbin. And I was one of those young coaches who thought I knew it all, and it was far from it.
Yeah.
And then I was an assistant there for 9 years, went to Kenton in the WBL for 3 years, and ended up getting the Gahanna job, I think, in 2002, if my years are correct, and been there ever since.
So you went straight from Kenton to Gahanna?
Yes.
And been there ever since?
Yes.
That's really a compliment to you. Now, let's go. You've had some really good players, and we'll come to that in a minute. I know it's hard to name some really good players, and maybe we won't. But tell me then, what's your total wins now? Over 400?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know exactly. I would say we're getting close maybe to 450 in that range. I don't know, somewhere around there.
Okay. Let's talk about this year's team just briefly, because I'd rather do other stuff. This year's team, what do you have coming back, Coach?
We're have really we only have 3 seniors total. We're a young team.
Wow.
We have 9 juniors. So we are a more inexperienced team for Columbus.
Right.
We're the smallest team I've ever had. We are a team full of guards. So we got to change our style a little bit and play some small ball and get up and down the floor. Will definitely be fun to watch. But I like our group. They're hardworking, great guys, and they just put forth a great effort. And I think we're going to surprise people here in Columbus.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing with Gahanna kids and different schools, I'm talking to you right now, with the Gahanna kids, they're tough. They're tough. I mean, they compete. I know that from football. I do the football. I used to do the football thing a lot. But the Gahanna kids are tough. Almost bite you. And that's not a put down. That's just how competitive they are and stuff like that.
I would agree with that. One of the things that appealed to me about the Gahanna job, it was just like Findlay, where you had 3 middle schools feeding into 1 high school.
Yeah.
And, with those kids coming up to the high school from the middle school, it was very competitive.
Right.
So to make any sport in Gahanna, you got to have a little fight in you. And, Gahanna kids definitely have that for sure.
Yeah, I've always thought that. And I don't think they can quite get it together. I think Reynoldsburg is a little bit like that. But you've had a blend of talent and competitiveness, tough guys. Give me names of a couple. You talked about John Hughes. Is he still playing?
No, he is not. He's not playing. John Hughes again, played for the University of Cincinnati, got a
Yeah.
full ride for football. But he is done. He's in Gahanna, has
Okay.
his own business. So I see him every now and then. He was definitely a football kid that could bring the pain on the basketball court. And
Right.
and recently Jonathan Cooper, who's now a defensive end with the Denver Broncos. We had a big kid, Nick Ward, who played for Izzo at Michigan State, 6'9", lefty,
Okay.
big kid. And I remember Jonathan Cooper's senior year, he came to me and said, "Hey, Coach Urban Meyer wants me to really get in the weight room. So I don't know if I could play football." And I said, "Well, sorry to hear that." And he goes, so he was lifting 3 days a week after school. Then finally I'm like, "Hey man, we need somebody tough enough to bang Nick Ward around. Hey, Coop, can you come in at least 2 days a week and practice?" And he said, "Sure, coach, I can come in 2 days a week." He loved it because he was the only kid Nick Ward wouldn't mess with. And
Oh,
finally, he did that for a while. And he's like, "Coach, I'm having so much fun. You mind if I come back on the team?" I said, "Heck yeah, come back and join us." And, we had a tremendous senior year.
and he
And
shouldn't have been told that in the first place.
yeah,
But I'm an
yeah, but
I'm an honest guy. That's what they did. Always, I've lost track of big offensive lineman down in Dayton area, and he's a left tackle he played at Ohio State. He's a left tackle for the Detroit Lions. Gosh, and I told him, I said he was playing AAU all the time. I said, play for your high school team in the summer and still play football. He like 6'8". Oh shoot, I forget his name right now, but really, yeah, those guys below that. I have a whole different philosophy on talent and what they have.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, back in the day, it was taboo to lift when you're
I
a
know.
basketball player,
I
but
know.
I mean, we lift 3 days a week,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a little easier to do that now.
Yeah.
If a kid really wants to play with his school basketball team.
Well, that's really good. Who was the player? I thought you had did you have a player that went to Michigan? No, I
No,
must
we had two that went to Michigan State.
Michigan
We
State.
had Javon Bess, played for Coach Izzo at Michigan State, and Nick Ward.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking you had a point guard or something that went to Michigan, but what makes Central Ohio basketball tough? I mean, I was doing a little bit of work. I mean, even the smaller schools are tough in basketball. You guys, Arlington, and the Dublin. I mean, you're all tough. But what makes basketball tough in the Columbus, Central Ohio?
Yeah. Well, I think we got so many communities that are right on top of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's always opportunities to play at this school, that school. Heck, in Gahanna, you can be at like 5 different schools in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's always a game somewhere, So, and there's just so many communities that are so close and so competitive that it's sort of eat or be eaten down here. I mean, you better be ready to play or you're going to get it handed to you.
Yeah. Yeah. This was years ago, and I had these sports writers want to bait me this is years ago, why there weren't more college potential kids coming out of Central Ohio. I said, there are. It's good, but they're young programs. I mean, the young whereas you have Cleveland, Cincinnati, these guys have been around forever playing like the Catholic schools. And I said, they'll catch up. Well, Central Ohio doesn't have to take a back seat to anybody in those sports, football or basketball.
I agree.
And your communities are getting older. I mean, it's, I don't know, it's common sense, I think.
Yeah. And, so I agree. I just think that it ebbs and flows. There was years, it was, back when we made our Final Four run, there was so much Division I talent in Columbus. There was coaches all over, open gyms coming into practice. Then you go through some years where it's not as, is not as much. So just
Right.
like every city and, no matter the sport, you'll have a few years where it's just talent rich, then you'll have a few years where it's down. So it's just cyclical.
That's really good. Uh, what made you want to be a basketball coach?
That's a great question.
Because it's tough. Football, man, some stadiums down there, you're 50 yards from the field. So a guy
Yeah,
really has to yell at you to
yeah,
get your attention, doesn't he?
yeah.
Well, what about basketball? Why basketball?
Basketball, they're right on top of you. As a young teacher, I coached basketball and baseball.
Oh,
So I coached both of those sports when I was young,
yeah.
in my early teaching days. But I really fell in love with it. With all sports.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s where you just did everything. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I just think my early years with Jerry Snodgrass at Finley really and his mentorship sort of pushed me in that direction.
Yeah.
I would love to coach, baseball and other sports, but I think sort of being with Jerry and at Finley High School in the 90s, it just really made me a big passion for high school basketball.
That's good. I'm just going to joke with you a minute. When you were at Tiffin, did you play against Dieblers or not? You're quite a bit older than those.
I'm older. Yeah, that was
Quite a bit older, but I mean, coached against them or anything?
yeah, coached against them because I think because he has had time at Fostoria. I think he was maybe at Fostoria when we were in Finley, but no, great family. Great family.
What? Let's talk now. Let's talk philosophies. Let's talk things that would help a young coach listening to this or a player. Coach, what's your best advice for a young coach? I mean, I know the situation. You had a good job. You've not fell into things, but you had some really good young guys helping you come up. What's the key to being a good, successful young coach now? What does he have to do?
Well, I think the first thing is you got to be willing to put in the work.
Oh,
It's very time consuming.
so,
And the hours and commitment that it takes, and I was a teacher, so you're teaching all day,
yeah,
then going to coach basketball and all of the necessities that it goes into building a program. One is you got to be able and ready to put in the work.
yeah.
I think I really give my wife a lot of credit because she was when I got the job in Gahanna, she's like, you know what? Our kids were little. She's like, I'm gonna stay home with the kids
Yeah.
and you go do you and build a program. So
My
you
wife
definitely
did the
have to
same
have
thing.
the hard work and you got to have the support at home as well.
Boy, you're exactly right. Especially support at home, because I think the new generational coaches, that's really tough right now because they don't. I don't think they want to spend as much time in that you need it, and I think it's tough on these young coaches now and stuff because it seems to me it's changed. They don't want to quite put their time in as before. And I don't know if I'm right. I think football, I'm right because there are a lot more guys and stuff.
And you can't be part way in, you know.
Yeah,
It's all or nothing,
yeah, for
and
sure.
and you got to be you got to do it the way you want to do it,
Yeah,
but you also have to ask a lot of questions to
yeah,
coaches that you respect that have been through it,
yeah.
and you take advice from them, you blend it with sort of your philosophy and what you want to do, and you go to work. And I've been fortunate too, especially in my early years at Gahanna when we were building this program, to have an athletic director and people in administrative positions that are supporters.
Right. Well, it's huge, isn't it, Coach?
Yeah.
Okay, go back to basketball. I talked to a basketball official I did a podcast with him. Well, you probably know him up in the Toledo, up in Genoa. Catafaris.
Yes.
Catafaris?
Yes.
Yeah.
Catafias.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you going to handle the new flopping rule in basketball?
Well,
I'm just having some fun with it.
Hey, listen to this. It happened to us last night at our scrimmage. And, I sort of disagreed with the call. I said, how could it be flopping when there was actually contact there?
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I just think that, sometimes I don't want officials getting mad at me. But I just think maybe sometimes that's a call to sort of, help them to make a tough decision,
Yeah.
instead of just making the call one way or another, they can just make that flopping call, and we're off and running. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to handle it, but we definitely are old school. We tell our guys to take charges. And I thought we had a couple charges last night that maybe the officials didn't agree with, but that'll be to be continued. I'll let you know.
I thought that was interesting. Anyway, tell me your successful program. So as you look back, how did you build the culture, Tony? How did you build the culture? Because everybody, a buzzword now is culture. Diebler is going to have a different culture at Ohio State. And they were both successful, but his culture is going to be different. How do you build culture?
Well, I don't think it's fancy locker room signs. When I was younger, I thought you could put up a couple signs in the locker room and boom, you got culture. Well, I was wrong. We got a couple signs in our locker room, but culture is modeled every single day.
Yeah.
And as a coach and a coaching staff, you have to set the standards, the expectations of, not only how our team is going to play, but how we're going to act in the hallways, how we're going to behave and interact with teachers, how we act in the community, on the buses, going to and from games. So you have to sort of model that and set the expectations and follow through.
Right.
And I think then that has to be modeled by the coaches, and the players have to follow it. And I think the best thing that a program can have is the players can pass it down every year.
Right.
So, and again, there are some of my teams have done a great job of that, and there are some of my teams that haven't. But to me, I think it's just what you do daily and the standards and expectations that you say, hey, here's what we're going to be and how we're going to act to be a Gahanna basketball player.
And follow through with it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And as a coach. And
you may have to make tough decisions of sitting kids during a game, an important game, suspensions. You cannot let winning, get in the way of how you want your culture and standard of your program to be.
Right, for sure. And you hear that. I got to change the culture.
Because as a young coach, you feel pressured to win. And it's much easier for me to do that now because I've been doing this for 35 years. So the older you get, it seems like you can definitely grow into establish a culture a lot easier.
And you've got to be successful.
Yes.
I mean, you got to be successful. I mean,
you got to have some credibility.
Yeah, credibility and success. Yeah, that's good. Okay. What makes an excellent basketball player?
One, common sense are the physical tools, plain and simple.
Okay.
There are some kids that have been blessed by God that are just tremendous athletes,
Right. Right.
Two, you got to put in the work. It is a skilled sport.
Yeah.
You're not just going to the weight room. You have to put in the work of, dribble, pass, and shoot. You got to be able to good at all three. And unlike football, you got to play both ends, offense and defense.
Yeah.
So
you got to be good at both ends.
Yeah, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And also are all those intangibles that every sport wants, you know, IQ, being a good teammate, coachable, you know, so it's all those intangibles as well. And if you get somebody who has tremendous talent with a work ethic
Yeah.
and just a quality character person, man, you'll take those any day of the week.
Right. They have to be really smart. I think they have to basketball smart.
Yeah.
I mean, I think basketball, you know, I know there's skilled kids that can dunk but and do all those things, but I think they have to be smart.
Yeah.
And that comes from repetition, anyway.
Yeah, and you got to be smart on the fly. I mean,
Yeah,
basketball,
exactly.
you know, it is nonstop back and forth,
Yeah,
and smart players can make adjustments just
exactly.
going in transition. You know, something happened on the defensive end, you know, and the next time down, they can't get burned by the same action, you know.
Right.
So they have to be smart and have an IQ and make those adjustments while you're playing.
Okay. Two more questions. I can ask you, but someday I'll come back and we'll talk after you retire from that. But
Okay.
anyway, what makes what what do you think is the biggest challenges athletes have today? I can ask you because you've been there. I mean, you've been 35 years. So, what's the biggest challenges they have now?
I would say a couple of things. One, it's more competitive than ever.
Okay. Okay.
More competitive than ever. I think kids are bigger, stronger, faster.
Uh,
Kids are more skilled at a much younger age
okay.
than ever before. Um, so dreams of going to the next level and playing college basketball, um, it's just a bigger challenge than ever before. It's just
Right.
so competitive. So I think that's definitely a challenge. Um, you know, I think sometimes there's a lot of people in athletes' ear. It's just not mom and dad. It's
Yeah.
coach. It's trainer. It's, you know, so there's so many, you know, people in kids' ears nowadays giving them all kinds of different
Right.
advice. You know, so that's you see that at all AAU coaches and trainers,
AAU.
you know, so that's also another challenge as well. And I think now with the recent change with the transfer portal in basketball, kids aren't being recruited that much anymore.
No.
Um, you know, college coaches don't have to come to high school gyms anymore. Now, if you got a five-star kid, yeah, they're going to come recruit them. But now it's sort of like they don't have to come to high schools anymore. Kids will just go to college and they'll just, you know, grab them at a school out of the transfer portal and you know, let kids sort of work their way up from there. So I
Hey,
just think there's just many things that make it a bigger challenge, but those, you know, are several that just pop in my head.
okay. Coach Staib, I really appreciate you taking the time and 28 minutes to talk to me. I really enjoyed the interview and you really impressed. Thank you.
Nope, I appreciate it, and keep in touch if anything comes up basketball wise down the road. You want to get just an old man's advice on? Feel free to give me a call, and we'll do it again.
I'll talk to you about the flop rule.